Looking for something to read? Well, these are the books that I've written. Hop on down to the description to find the Amazon links for all 4 of them, and keep your eyes open for more in the future. With that said, on to the video. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and it seems that Shark Week really has come early this year, because we started off with the reveal that Zegra, the alien shark monster from the Gamera series, would be making his big return in Gamera Rebirth, and we barely managed to dry off after that when we got the trailer for the MEG 2, The Trench, the sequel to the MEG, which is the adaptation of Steve Alten's MEG, the first book in the MEG series. That was a very long-winded way of saying it, but the point is, it's about giant sharks. It's full-blown asylum-level sharksploitation, but from an actual legitimate big studio, in this case Warner Brothers. Now, I saw the first MEG. I actually reviewed the book before the movie came out, but I saw the first MEG movie, and I gotta say, at first the trailers did really throw me, because it started off really intense, and like it was actually maybe going to be kind of in line with the books, and then the lounge music started playing, and I was like, what? Did I accidentally click on another trailer somehow? Or no, this is the same one. And honestly, though, just the fact that they cast Jason Statham in the lead role told me what kind of movie this was going to be and how it was going to work as an adaptation. Because, look, I don't want to say anything against Jason Statham. He is a very good actor when it comes to playing a very particular kind of character. And that is why people cast him in their movies, because they want him to play that character. And that character is not the protagonist from the MEG novels. In the novels, it's like this really intense horror where the protagonist has severe PTSD and the shark is like the deadliest, scariest thing ever. And in the movies, it's like full-blown action with a comedic overtone. Not that it's a comedy, but there were like it was not the same kind of thing. It was one of those in-name only adaptations. And it wasn't just that they changed. They really laid the China pandering on thick for this one, to the point where all the Chinese characters in the movie, they're Japanese in the books. And I'm honestly amazed that the movie was allowed to get away with that. Because if you ask anyone from China or Japan if it's basically the same thing, if their particular nationalities are just interchangeable, they will tell you no. It's, yeah, I was really kind of stunned at that. And yet, the China pandering must have worked, because the MEG was a huge success, largely thanks to China and that box office. That was basically the peak of when Hollywood was really, really into appealing to China. Not that they've gotten over it, but like, that is like the ultimate level of pandering that they can do. Yet in spite of all of that, I looked at the movie and thought, okay, it's not a good adaptation, not in any stretch. But as a weird little big budget take on sharksploitation, it's amusing enough. It's not necessarily the movie I would go out of my way to see again, but it was okay for what it was. But I did wonder how they were going to handle a sequel. Especially given that in the wake of the first movie, even Jason Statham was saying that the movie that was released wasn't the movie he signed up for. But there are a lot of other MEG books to adapt, and since the movie made money, of course they were going to make a sequel. So now we have the trailer for The Trench. And it opens in a surprising way. The reason I say the opening for the trailer is surprising is because the scene which you see was actually the very first scene from the first book, which a lot of us, I think, were disappointed didn't make it into the movie. But now they just threw it in for the second movie, or at least for the trailer. It might just be exclusive to the trailer. It's not unheard of for trailers to have stuff made exclusively for that trailer that doesn't make it into the movie itself. But I'd like to believe it's in the movie at least. And I mean, it basically plays out the way it's written. It's not necessarily as atmospheric because, again, the movies are not horror movies. They're pulpy action movies. So it's going to be more energetic and, oh, isn't this cool, in the portrayal of seeing a T-Rex get eaten by a megalodon. But as adapting the scene goes, I guess it works. It looks fine. The special effects don't necessarily look that good, but there is always the possibility it's just not quite finished. In terms of the human side of things, it doesn't look like anything has changed. In fact, it seems like they're just going full comic book superhero mode at this point, because they've got like exosuits that let the wearer punch through concrete. They've got super advanced underwater stations and submarines. They've got shots of Jason Statham riding a water ski on top of a tidal wave as he draws a harpoon to plunge into the face of the giant megalodon. They're clearly not trying to make a grounded horror story. Not that the books were that grounded per se, but you know, they didn't go that over the top. Then again, I guess that is kind of the point. Like I said, the first movie was basically a big budget take on sharksploitation. It's what the Asylum would do if the Asylum was a studio like Warner Brothers. So, I mean, can you really fault it for being like that? I suppose you technically could, because it's an adaptation and it's supposed to be more faithful to the source material than it is. But, I mean, if you know the kind of movie you're gonna get as you go in, you can't exactly act surprised when it turns out to be exactly what's advertised. But it seems we are going to get more elements from the books in as far as seeing the greater ecosystem of the trench. In the first movie, they kind of hinted at it, but we only saw a very little bit, and the megalodon was the only unusual thing about it. Here, they're bringing in other creatures. Specifically, there seems to be a focus on a giant octopus. There's also this lizard-looking thing that shows up. Don't know what that is, but there are a lot of shots involving a giant octopus of some sort, so it feels like that's being set up as like the main antagonist, I suppose. That there's going to be a creature fight at some point in the movie where one of the three megalodons, probably the biggest one, who knows if that's actually Angel from the books or not, but it seems like that one's going to fight a giant octopus at some point. Which is an odd choice because in the books, the creature that's set up as the primary antagonist for the megalodon is a Chronosaurus, which are basically like marine reptiles. They're the ones with the large crocodile heads and the shorter necks. And they've evolved gills in the book in order to survive underwater without needing to surface. They're set up as the main antagonists in the books. And I see no sign of them in the trailer. It's possible they're just keeping them secret and there's going to be this big reveal where one suddenly appears, but the octopus feels like the one they're focusing on. And again, that's harkening back to the Asylum stuff. Mega shark versus giant octopus. But it's a big budget Hollywood movie now. It really feels kind of weird, I gotta say. Now, the movie's coming out in August. I'm on the fence about whether or not I'm going to go see it in theaters. Because, I mean, I saw the first one in theaters. I don't know. I wasn't blown away, like I said, but I didn't hate it either. But since I know what to expect now, I don't know. Maybe I'll have made up my mind by the end of the summer. I've still got plenty of time to figure it out. But as far as this trailer goes, I guess it didn't shock me or confuse me as much as the first trailer did because I know what they're going for now with these movies. But I still kind of wish we were getting a more faithful adaptation. It's not even like with Jurassic Park where, yes, that's not a faithful adaptation either, but it still preserved enough of the core spirit of the book that you were able to forgive it. This series is completely divorced from the source material. And it's ridiculous how divorced it is. Like, I mean, imagine there are plenty of comedies based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, sure, but imagine if the very first adaptation of Dracula was a comedy. That's how different it is. I don't know. I'll have processed and made up my mind by the time August rolls around, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I'm sure you guys have thoughts, so having listened to me ramble for this long, feel free to share your thoughts down below. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Thank you all for watching. If you want to see us keep doing what we're doing, you might consider doing all the usual YouTube things, as well as hopping down to the description to find links to DeviantArt, Patreon, Twitter, and links for the different books in the Tales from the Omni Vault universe. Your support is naturally appreciated. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.